What is going on, YouTube? It is Trevor coming at you from Wichita, Kansas, in the Tesla on FSD. We're pulling out of Starbucks. I came to talk to you guys about Metaplanet, Mtplf stock. It's a big deal. Anyway, no, in all seriousness, guys, if you like my channel, if you're interested in AI, crypto, robotics, and asymmetric bets in the stock market or the crypto market, definitely smash that subscribe button below and like the video if you don't mind, to promote it so other people can see the video. Yeah, let's get right into it. So what I want to talk today is, someone brought up in the comments a good point. You know, they said, hey, what happens if the TSE, the Tokyo Stock Exchange, does not approve Metaplanet's preferred shares, right? Which is a risk. Let's be honest. There's a slight, in my personal opinion, very tiny possibility that the TSE will not approve Metaplanet's preferred shares. Metaplanet has already initiated conversations with TSE, as well as Metaplanet has already gotten approval from their shareholders to issue up to $555 million worth of preferred shares. I believe you could fact check me, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that number, but it's close to that number. So yeah, that is something that could possibly happen, right? And that could derail their future guidance. You know, they told us, hey, we're gonna issue these preferred shares, and there's $7 trillion on the sideline in Japan because there's no way to get a good dividend. There's no way to get a good interest rate, right? So that's one of the most bullish parts about Metaplanet, is their ability to issue these preferred shares and take advantage of all that money that the Japanese people keep under their mattresses, right? So I wanted to address this issue, right? So it's a huge growth vector that is kind of like not approved, right? It's initiated but not approved. So how does that affect our bullish thesis? How does that affect the long-term thesis about the stock? All right, so here's how I look at things when it comes to the TSE preferred shares approval or not, right? The way I look at it is that right now, Metaplanet is trading at an MNAV of basically 1. And that's ever since it got over $3 a share. I think anything just about under $3 a share is less than an MNAV of 1. So in other words, they're worth less than their Bitcoin holdings, right? So they're improperly priced, or improperly valued, in my opinion, right? So in my personal humble opinion, I believe that even at today's prices, and let's say they don't get approval for the preferred shares, and Tokyo Stock Exchange deems it, you know, as not approved, right? Well, the valuation on Metaplanet is so cheap. At the end of the day, you're at least getting Bitcoin, right? You're getting Bitcoin and a Bitcoin treasury company with no premium. And that being said, that would mean that their only real way to increase those Bitcoin holdings would be to either dilute shareholders or take out loans, right? And both of those have downsides, quite distinct downsides. And let's be honest, the preferred shares also have downsides, right? Because you have to pay that dividend yield. But the idea behind the preferred shares, the dividend yield is so much smaller than the CAGR of Bitcoin that you're almost getting, you know, the money for free, because the dividend yield is so small. I think they're targeting a dividend yield of like 4.5% or something, you know, and the lifetime CAGR of Bitcoin is 99% per year. So, I mean, it's a 20x, right? So think about it like that. So, like I said, if they do not get approval for the preferred shares, okay, that's bad. It's not good. But you're still getting Metaplanet with all of their Bitcoin, and the certain ways they can continue to accumulate Bitcoin in an accretive manner, right? So I still say it's a buy here, even if you like say, okay, no preferred shares. But in all reality, if you want to look at it from a realistic perspective, I think there's a very, very good chance, I would give it 95% plus chance, that they end up getting the approval from the TSE to, you know, issue the preferred shares. I mean, it really doesn't affect anybody, the preferred shares, in like a negative way. I get that this is, somewhat revolutionary for the TSE, in that Japan in general is more conservative about these types of things, especially after the Mt. Gox thing. But like I said, I do give it a 95% plus chance that they issue the preferred shares and the TSE is fine with it. And if that happens, once and maybe that is actually what's holding back Metaplanet shares right now, is the fact that the preferred shares are not approved. They're approved by shareholders, so all the shareholders have approved it. They want the preferred shares issued, right? That's not an issue. It's regulatory approval. So yeah, like I said, I think no matter what, you can spin it. You can spin it however you want to, preferred shares or not. I think it's a steal of a deal right now, right? But like preferred shares included, I think it's just massively underpriced. It's similar to MicroStrategy, except for MicroStrategy doesn't have the ability to go into Japan and have the same advantages as a company that's actually listed on the TSE has, right? Similarly to Metaplanet doesn't have all the advantages that MicroStrategy does have in like the US, right? The US, MicroStrategy has a $100 billion market cap, right? Compared to Metaplanet has a measly little $3 or $4 billion market cap. So yeah, MicroStrategy definitely has an advantage in the US, right? That being said, Metaplanet is still, creating a presence in the United States. So, and not a small one. They're going to Miami. They have like a $5 billion investment plan. Let alone they have like Eric Trump as a strategic advisor, right? So, I say this in every video I make, but it's like we live in a wild time right now. It's almost the wild, wild west when it comes to crypto, and it's like the massive gold rush, the new age gold rush with Bitcoin, and I'm pounding the table. I'm pounding the table on Metaplanet. I think no matter what, even if they come out and say no, I think it's just like the uncertainty surrounding Metaplanet that makes investors shy away. We've seen a Metaplanet stock price of $16, and they've diluted since then. So on a pre-diluted basis, maybe Metaplanet's $5 or $6 right now, but that's still a 60-70% drawdown when people were, buying hand over fist at $15 or $16 just a few months ago. It's like Warren Buffett says, buy when others are greedy and sell when others are greedy and buy when people are scared, right? It's hard to say that people aren't scared about Metaplanet now when it's trading at an MNAV below 1. So you actually can buy it, you can buy more Bitcoin on a Bitcoin per share basis than you can just Bitcoin, essentially. I guess that's not right. Technically, the Bitcoin per share is not. Technically, the market cap is associated with the MNAV is the multiple to the net asset value, right? So they have more Bitcoin than what you're paying for from an enterprise value, not necessarily from a Bitcoin per share value, right? So that's an important distinction to make. Oh, guys, it's just like I said. I think Metaplanet. If you're really crazy and you put a bunch of like a double-digit percentage of your portfolio into Metaplanet, I don't blame you. At these deflated prices, I think you're going to do well. But like I said, personally, my risk tolerance is I have concentrated bets, and I take concentrated bets and I make them to where no certain position can destroy me, right? And Metaplanet, it's a risky investment for sure. It's not like you're going out and buying Coca-Cola here. You're not buying Coca-Cola. You're buying a previous Japanese hotel company that was dying and failing and has now completely changed their business model to accrete Bitcoin for shareholders, right? Taking a page out of Michael Saylor's book. So yeah, and right now I believe they're like the number 4 largest Bitcoin treasury in the world, which is pretty outstanding, for how quickly and how recently they started accumulating Bitcoin. It's like for them to have this much already is it's something else, it's unprecedented, how quickly they've got over 30,000 Bitcoin, and that's with no preferred shares. That's just buying, diluting, just basically that. So the other thing is I find their announcement to basically get $500 million to be able to buy shares back at these low prices to be outstanding for, you know, investor confidence. Like, if they hadn't come out and done that, I would have been a little worried, you know, like, because there's two different ways. I've talked about this in previous videos, but there's two different ways that they could have went about this, right? They could have went about it as, oh, we don't care about our shareholders, we just care about getting as much Bitcoin as possible, and essentially tricking investors into giving us their money so we can just continue to increase the enterprise value of Metaplanet. And then, you know, eventually they I don't know if they could actually dilute and just take that money for themselves, you know, or like you know, give themselves larger compensation packages or something, you know. Obviously everything would have to be voted on by the board of directors and potentially shareholders as well, but it's just one of those things where it's like, the investor confidence I got in the fact that they are actually buying back their dang shares, guys. They're buying them back, right? Because they're at an MNAV below 1, and who knows, maybe they'll buy them back at even like an MNAV a little higher than 1 because they believe in the share price so much. But that is a vote of confidence for the share price. It's not a vote of confidence necessarily for Bitcoin or for anything else, but it is a vote of confidence for the share price of Metaplanet, which is what investors need to see. And I'm so happy. I talked about this a month ago. I said if that MNAV goes below 1, they need to buy the shares back, and I will love the company. If they don't do that, I mean, if they don't do that, it would have sketched me out. I'm not gonna lie, it would have sketched me out. I might have had to get out or reduce my position or something. But now that they've announced that they've got all this credit just to buy shares back at will, and they see that their shares are basically undervalued, that's the only reason why insiders would buy, you know, is that they know something that we don't know, you know, or at least that the Wall Street doesn't know, you know. So yeah, guys, it's a wild time. I'm super bullish on Metaplanet, and if you watch my videos on this channel, I think maybe you'll come to the same agreement as me. If not, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know how I'm wrong. Let me know how I'm right. Let me know how many Metaplanet shares you got, right? If you made it this far, guys, what are you doing? You gotta subscribe to the channel. I make videos like this on AI, crypto, robotics, and asymmetric bets in the stock market all the time, every day. So I'm here for you guys. I appreciate all my viewers, but I'm hoping that we can all make money together, right? So with that, guys, don't forget to subscribe, and have yourself a great day.